What's going on, guys? This is Logan with West Desert Wheeler, and today we are looking at the new Vanquish Products Stance RTR. This is the slightly revised version. They've made a few changes. Some of the most obvious ones are going to be the new paint colors. This one is Progress Blue, and then the dark metallic gray is called Graphite. I really do like the graphite color. It's just, you know, more of a dark metallic gray. This one is definitely in your face if given the choice between this one or the previous green option. I do like the blue over the green, but personally I like a little more subtle look, so the silver and the gray is definitely more my speed. However, this is what Vanquish sent me, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. What else have we seen changed on the Stance RTR? So since my original video, the lower links used to be very small links. Now, the reason I left it sitting on this box we're going to get to in a second. So just keep in mind, this is how it came out of the box. It was sitting on a central box like this. The controller sits underneath it, and it supports the vehicle right here. We'll talk about that in just a second. The links are now improved. These are much larger diameter. These are the full diameter. These are the 1/4-inch stainless links like found on the front lowers, so this is a major upgrade. Still high clearance, so it has a bend near the rear. They used to be very thin on the original Stance. They made a running change, and this new truck continues that theme as well. But they used to be really thin like these upper ones, and with the bend in them, they would just fold under, you know, hard slams and whatnot. We still see the VXT2 tires used with a dual stage foam in there. These are not vented. I would recommend that if you were crawling with this and you're not crawling in water, I would recommend that you vent your tires. That's going to allow them to conform to the rocks a lot better, let these things breathe. Sometimes you'll get a tire that gets the air squeezed out of it, but then air can't get back in, so it looks a little goofy like that, and then you'll see a lot more wrinkling on your sidewalls, things of that nature, because this truck does come with a lot of overdrive, which is awesome. Let's get back to that box aspect of this guy, and if we pull the body off of this thing, we can see that this guy comes with some sheet metal sliders here. This is where your battery is going to sit in your truck, and you can choose which side you want to run it on. Typically, I run it on the passenger side, just a little more open room here. But in the shipping process, I don't know if you guys will be able to catch this angle very well. Let's make sure that it's in view here. Yeah, you can see how angled up this guy is. It does appear that this rock slider did get bent in shipping. I mean, it's going to happen on occasion. I'm not saying that every truck's going to be like this, but a real simple fix is just go ahead and grab it and go ahead and fold it back down. So this should be something you won't have to do ever again, really, unless you happen to really smash your truck into a rock. I've never found a rock that I was able to hit hard enough to bend my slider. I've actually got it caught under some rock edges before, not specifically on this Stance, but other trucks that I've had. And if I try and like power through under a ledge, it can bend your slider doing that as well. So keep an eye out for that. A couple other small things I noticed on this particular RTR, picking up the truck, I mean, just brief overview of it. My body pins got stuck to the sticky tires there for a second. Rocking the steering back and forth, this servo horn is loose. So I intentionally did not touch this. So I want to see if it's loose or if there's something else going on. So let's grab our 2mm Vanquish driver here, put that in our servo horn. Yep, absolutely. Just, I mean, that was like a turn and a half out. So we just snug that up. It's gone, no big deal. So again, just little things to look out for on that. I did find it interesting that that was not super tight. Very interesting, I should say. So I'm going to vent my tires. Another very important change made to this Stance RTR is the change of the ring and pinion gears internally in the axles. Now, you're not going to be able to see that. We're going to tear it apart and check them out in just a second. But Vanquish was doing a sintered powder metal ring and pinion. So it was a weaker, more affordable gear for the RTR. And essentially, people were breaking and stripping ring and pinions. So they went back to a machined gear set inside the axles. I followed this quite a bit from the original Stance, and then after the Optic came out, it did seem like we saw a lot more people have issues with those ring and pinions in the Optic, which is a straight axle truck, meaning that there is no gear reduction from portals out on the end of the axles. So I think that the portal axles essentially took a lot of the stress off of the ring and pinion. That's how it works in the full-size world as well. And yeah, so I don't think we saw as many failures in the Stance, but I'm glad to see that they did make that change. So hopefully it's just a more robust truck working our way down the trail. I do want to mention we are going to get out crawling here in just a minute. I just want to go over a few of the changes on the truck, and then we'll go and hit the rocks. As far as the shocks, S8E shocks, these are not the hard anodized ones. These are the bright silver aluminum finish on there. I've had really rough luck with these. At this moment, none of the 4 are leaking. I will give them credit where it's due. None of the 4 are leaking at this moment. I would not be surprised in the slightest if it does in the future. I'll keep you guys updated on that after our run. But outside that, like I mentioned, we're going to have overdrive. So we're going to have 6% overdrive coming from the VFD transmission. This is one of my favorite transmissions. And then we're going to have some overdrive provided through the axles as well. So I don't remember the exact percentage. I believe it's 17% overdrive from the portal gears plus the 6%. So you're somewhere in that 23%. If you get the VRD carbon kit, then you get a 21% overdrive from the transmission, and then the same 17 in the axle. So a much more aggressive overdrive. This is right where you kind of want to be. This is where you're going to start to notice the benefits without being too crazy and actually starting to hurt performance in some aspects with a crazy amount of overdrive that you can actually run into. Got our 1060 ESC here, got the Vanquish motor, good old brush setup. We've got the VR1 receiver. Another strange issue I had, I'll throw in a picture here. They put the protective film over this little plastic piece, which is great. I actually really do enjoy the interface with this controller. When pulling the protective film off, it pulled this plastic piece off of my controller. Kind of funny, it's just something I noticed, so I'm sharing it with you guys. Overall, I'm nitpicking a few things on this truck as I open it and look at it, but I do want to say the VRD stance is probably the best option available for a high performance Class 2 style truck, just meaning drag axle, not a buggy, not super scale, performance driven drag axle, you know, a cool high performance truck. This is a flat rail option. So you're going to be comparing things like the SDX Pro or the Red Cat Fusion, things of that nature. This is the best option, especially for the VRD carbon kit is just excellent. And then this guy is affordable and it's already built. So that's a great option as well, just depending on exactly what you're after. If you're a more advanced builder, I do like the VRD carbon kit. It's this same bloodline here. It's just a little bit turned up to the max. This guy ready to go out of the box, super awesome option. So I don't want to get this confused with a negative review here. This is one of my favorite RTR trucks just for a high performance Class 2 style vehicle. Not a buggy, not super scale. This is the kind of truck that I personally really like. I like to go drive over difficult to drive over obstacles, and this guy is set up really well to do that. As an RTR, it's pretty wild what it's capable of. So big thumbs up to Vanquish on the stance. It's not a brand new product, so I just wanted to go over some of the little details that I ran into while unboxing it. So let's go ahead and get this rear axle taken apart. We'll take a look at these gears, and then we'll get out to the rocks. Now, in your little baggie of spare parts, there is a socket adapter that is a thin wall 8mm socket so that you can fit onto these 8mm wheel nuts here. I happen to have an 8mm Vanquish driver here. That's what I typically use on these guys, so no big deal for me. And then if you upgrade your wheels to aftermarket wheels, specifically with the Vanquish SLW hubs, being able to squeeze down inside of those hubs is where that thin wall socket will really become necessary, whereas this guy sits on a flat surface, so you don't really need a thin wall socket there. Now we're going to remove both rear wheels, remove both rear portal gears, and then we can rip these gears out of the ring and pinion. Now, most RCs use a 7mm driver on the axle shafts. That's because the Vanquish VRD stance has a larger stub shaft with an M5 thread, so just larger, more robust. It's a lot chunkier. The F10 portal axles are some of the strongest and the best available on the market. These things steer like crazy. They have a lot of good aftermarket available. F10 portals are absolutely some of my top choices in axles for RCs. Very nice, healthy amount of that blue Vanquish grease that we see. It looks very similar to the kit grease, so happy to see that. Portal gears are super greased up in here. I do notice that they're a lighter gray color. This is a running change as well for Vanquish. They used to be a dark black gear inside those axles. These are supposed to be an improved gear, so they made a change to the actual finish of them so that you could identify which gear set you have. So this has the newer portal gear in here, which is supposed to increase strength as well. So good to see that they're taking notes on issues they've had and improving them as they move along. Yep, again, super greased up. That's great to see. We can pull this axle shaft out. There we go. Now we got to get this thing disassembled. I'm going to do this off camera and we'll look at this ring and pinion. Now I got all the screws pulled out of the axle housing here. Should be able to remove this guy now. There we go. Again, very greased. And they are, in fact, the machine gear set here. They got the laser engraved tooth count. So you've got an 8-tooth pinion and a 30-tooth ring gear, which is the standard ring and pinion in these guys. So this is not an overdrive or an underdrive gear set, anything like that. So yeah, looks good. I'm a big fan of that. So there's your improved gear set here, guys. And these should be plenty strong. I've never broken a Vanquish machined ring and pinion, and I've done a lot of dumb stuff with my RC crawlers. So let's get out to the rocks, see how this guy performs. I don't think we'll be surprised in any way, which is to say it does really good. And there's a few small things you can do to improve its performance, but overall these are awesome trucks. I'm excited to go drive this thing. Let's go check it out. All right, guys, we've made it out to Sand Hollow. We're gonna go up a couple of my favorite spots out here. These are kind of my medium grade trails. There are certainly trucks that can't make it through some of these obstacles, and I'll be sure to talk about which ones those are as we go. I apologize if the audio gets a little windy. Believe me, I don't want it to be windy here either, but it's what we have to deal with today. So let's get to it. Got the Stance RTR V2 in the new Progress Blue. So let's see how she does out here on the rocks. And I gotta say, this blue really pops out here in the sun. Looks really good outside. As you can see here, these tires haven't even rolled through the sand yet, because as the VXTs come out of the box, those things are sand magnets. It's just that super sticky finish on the outside really makes them pick up sand, and then they like to do this. They like to sit and spin, because essentially they got little marbles all over them, which is all the sand stuck to the tires. All right, there we go. Nice little save there. So that's full throttle. I will say that full throttle on these trucks leaves a bit to be desired. This has changed here. Typically, there's a big sand hill here, but I think that some full-size buggies have kind of dug that out a bit. So, yeah, the terrain changes out here in Sand Hollow. We may have to find a new way up here, which I've never had to do, so A, I don't even know if it's possible, and B, we'll have to find out if the Stance can do it. And it's blowing sand right in my eyes. This is really fun, I'm telling you. There it is. And the Stance is the first truck to make it up through there, so there we go. I have driven up the rocks from this point, so I don't expect any real surprises moving on from here, since we're going to be on solid rock at this point. He's got some pretty tricky little transitions through here, though. Great steering angle. I have not adjusted the endpoints. I forgot to check that out while at the bench, actually. But turning right, it's turning right really sharp, so that's solid. Keep working back and forth. It's a big drop down if you fall off here. Yeah, I might not make it up this. This is very steep, and you're gonna need a good amount of traction to pull up this. Keeping wheel speed without trying to hop. Yeah, it's just not quite gonna pull it there. That's okay. I have seen some trucks do it. Maybe it's the wheelbase, maybe it's the tires. I don't know. This truck just didn't quite want to pull it today. That's all right. It's an RTR. It's right out of the box. And like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the best options available. This has some of the highest performance available for an RTR. So I'm a big fan of the Stance. I will say the body itself is very durable. I ran my original green one for a long time and beat the crap out of it, and it was very solid. It cracked near the grill, which is not a real surprise. When you roll and slam onto the hood a lot, it's going to weaken that Lexan there. It's trying to roll over on the rear here. Trying to get that left rear shifted over on this climb. And then we got to do this weird off-camber, steep breakover area without letting it fall off the hill. Oh, don't let go of the hill. We're in real trouble now. Got to get the controller hand ready to grab this guy. Come on, Stance, pull. Nice, little throttle out at the end. I was very concerned it wasn't going to make that. Most trucks pull before they slide that far sideways. Just trying to set myself up well for this corner here. It does turn pretty good left. I think our end points could probably be adjusted to maximize our steering left. And this is one of the hardest obstacles on this trail. It's very important where you get your rear set, because you need to get your rear all the way back into the back corner of this pocket. Without rear steer, you can't get it up on this ledge. And so now you gotta fight just the length of the truck, not wanting to fit on here to get through this obstacle. This can be time consuming and it's pretty tricky, but this is a fun obstacle if you get it right. This truck should have the breakover with these tall tires on it. Now that is one thing I want to talk about on the stance. This thing comes with these VXT2 tires and the dual stage foams from Vanquish. I love the dual stage foams, that's great value, but these tires are way too tall. They're a 5-inch tire. And it sounds ridiculous saying that they're way too big if they're over 5 inches. They're more like a 5.2. So it sounds crazy to say that like, oh, a third of an inch or a half of an inch is too much. It's too big for a truck. And you're like, well, it's only a ½ inch. But at this scale, that really makes a big difference. I mean, that's the difference between like a 36-inch tire on a full-size rig and a 42. And like some rigs aren't built for 42s. This wheelbase is not ideally suited for having such a big tire. So it looks a bit monster trucky. Yes, stance, get it through there. All right, it did really good so far, but there's a huge drop here. And you're gonna go to the bottom of this waterfall if things don't pan out well. And being that this is a brand new truck, I'd prefer not to do that. So we're gonna try and use our servo to our advantage here. It's not quite fast enough to flick it around, but the overdrive, the high clearance links, the tall tires are giving us extra breakover as well. So that is a part of our advantage there. The dual stage foams turning downhill like this are not gonna let the tires just completely fold over on themselves. So it's gonna give you more steering precision. That's how we get through there. Very nice stance. That was really well done. Stoked to see that thing pull that line. That's absolutely the hardest part of the trail through this canyon. And this thing really didn't take too long. Once I got the rear set where they needed to go, it did its job, went to work, pulled itself up and over. And once we got ourselves set, it did it on the first try. It didn't like grind along the skid plate and fall to the bottom. So yeah, it did really good. These sintered portal weights that are included with this truck, yeah, it does have portal weights out on the front axle. The original stance came with those. I'm sorry if I skipped on that detail, and it definitely deserves to be mentioned for sure, the fact this thing comes with weights. But they're very effective and they work well. It's got just the right amount of weight up front that you need to help pull it up and over obstacles. We're gonna try and get this guy up and over a steep break over here. It's gonna slide along this edge. I've seen many trucks do this before. Try not to backflip it. Get it to pull, come on. It's got a good hook on that front right. Okay, well, it made it up. It just did the slip and slide along the way, no big deal. And there we have it, cruise through that canyon, which is part of the Trailbreaker Candyland. In my testing, I've found that VXT2s are not the best for this terrain, but they do well. They're a very soft compound, so if you're somewhere where you got slick rocks, they're probably gonna do well for you. They're very sticky. Very malleable, and I do like the dual stage foam. It has good feel, it's not overly foamed or anything. Vanquish got it right. Also, being dual stage foam, they glue their open cell foam, which is on the outside, they glue that to the inside, which is a closed cell foam. So you don't have to worry about your foam sliding and shifting on themselves. Ooh, that was close. I need to get that right rear to the bottom though. Get through there, come on.
Yep. Servo's giving us adequate torque today. It's doing fine. It's not fast, but there hasn't been a point yet where I've really wanted more servo. So for an RTR, that's about all you can ask for. I am curious though, would you guys want to see just a premium electronic suite in an RC car? Obviously it's going to cost a noticeable amount more, but buying an RTR like this and then ending up putting your own brushless system in or your own servo in later is going to cost you more money anyway. So would you rather just pay it up front, pay for a Hobbywing, you know, Fusion SE in this guy, and maybe, I don't know, a Reef's Raw 500, something with some serious power. Oh, there's our first rollover with the new truck. I don't think it wants to pull that. That's interesting. But you guys, would you be willing to do that for an RTR? And I mean, I'm talking $700 to $800 for an RTR at that point. Is it worth buying a premium electronics suite in an RC? Sound off in the comments below if you would pay $200 to $300 more to have the brushless motor you want and servo, a solid servo included in an RTR. Personally, I would. I've driven enough RCs at this point that I know that that's the route I want to go anyway. So it just makes more sense for me to have it done right out of the box. Now we're up and out of the canyon and I'm not protected against the wind, so it's going to be a bit breezy up here. This obstacle can be one of the most difficult out here. And then sometimes trucks can just walk through it. So I do have my tires vented, but because of that overdrive, we're still seeing those tires get wrapped up. That's what happens when your compound is super gooey like these, and you've got a ton of sidewall like these tires. It has a ton of sidewall because they're so tall on a 1.9. That's where I want that rear. Beautiful. Settle down. Yeah, it's just not quite looking like it wants to stick to these rocks how I want it to. The weight bias is not aggressive enough in the front. I am running a 1400 milliamp Genzace 3S pack. This truck is rated for 2 and 3S. I always recommend 3S, just gives you more available power on tap. I run just about every one of my rigs on 3S. I have a couple that are 4S capable, but even those, I still run them most of the time on 3S. Yep, not pulling through that today. All right, this one can be very tricky. It's hard to get just right with your rear tires. If your wheelbase is too long, you won't fit on top of this ledge, and you have to try and climb a big ledge right in front of the truck. So you got to put some angle on it. But if your tires won't start the pull, your truck will just never fit. Looks like this one wants to fit. Nice, nice. It did that really well. Man, that was sick. That was a solid pull here, guys. So the Stance has an angled skid on this VRD chassis, and for obstacles just like that, it is a huge benefit. Having those high clearance rear links as well. Now this is a super nasty breakover because we're going essentially up a vertical wall to like a 50-degree downside wall. So we're gonna get a little bit of throttle to get that skid up and over. I tried to be as mellow as possible, and man, it pulled right through. That was super impressive. Like, no shit, that was awesome. Very well done. Right out of the box. Gotta love these VRDs. This is why I recommend them to people. And yes, I really do. If people are asking me what they should get, if they want something like this, typically I ask them if they want more of a truck or a buggy. If they say they want something a little more scale or realistic, this is the way I point them. But if they say they want a buggy, H10, Capra, there's some cool options in the market right now. The Helaman. Well, what we're doing is getting ourselves in trouble. I'm trying to get that front passenger tire high enough that I can just turn passenger and put it on top of that ledge, but I can't quite get it far enough, and if I turn too early it pushes the truck backwards. I will say these tires break in extremely fast because they're compound. I don't think it would take long at all to wear through a set of these. There it is. Got the pull all the way to the top. Now we're a little too sideways. So give her the old reverse driver. Now we're in a good spot. Maybe too much. Look at the way this thing just navigates this stuff. Pivoting through. Hell yeah, Stance. Way to get it done. That was good stuff. All right, so let's just send it into like gnarly territory. We're gonna try Sidewinder. The rear is not where it needs to be. We need to get the rear up against the wall. There we go. Get that rear all the way up against the rocks. Drive the front onto the rock to help the rear get closer. Okay, so this is particularly difficult because it's gonna belly out most times. And when you're on your skid plate on a steep downhill, you lose control. The truck's gonna start sliding. So then it's just all about how you set yourself up for the landing. Although this guy has lots of clearance, as we've seen. Yeah, this guy with its brushed motor setup doesn't give you quite as fine of throttle feel. So maybe we don't climb that wall. Maybe let's just try and hug it. Just touch it. Just enough to get this thing to settle down. Beautiful. This is where a brushless system makes the difference, is the super finesse crawling like this. Beautiful. Set it down. Got it done. We're halfway through this obstacle because now we gotta make it through this pinch. This truck is particularly narrow on these plastic bead locks that are included with the trucks, and they are bead locks. They do screw together so you can adjust your foams or change the tires, whatever you want to do. Or keep your foams and tires and then put them on a fancy set of aluminum KMC wheels from Vanquish, which is probably the route I'm gonna go. Okay, front tire's a little too high in the air, but that right rear can get you into trouble and try and flip you over backwards. That's what it's trying to do. See, that rear tire just doesn't want to climb that. It goes under the ledge and tries to keep going under the ledge. Come on, come on, come on. Damn. This is one that you could spend 30 minutes on. So typically, as I drop in here, I'll start climbing this wall here. And it gets really scary because it looks like it's going to tip over. Because sometimes it does. That left rear is in the air. There we go, suspension settled. I do like the spring rate on these shocks. I think that they're sprung very well for this truck. Like, Vanquish does their homework. They're not messing around. But this truck does not want to pull up that. Something about these tires, the wheelbase, the width, all of them together make this one not want to pull this. That's okay. This is an extremely hard obstacle. And the fact the RTR made it here is pretty damn impressive. Well, the wind's picked up to 15 to 20 mile an hour now. It's ripping up top here. But there's still fun stuff to drive up, so we're going to keep going. Get out close to the ledge. Turn into it. That's where you got to trust your rig. Keep driving into the wall. Don't hesitate, or else it could unload the suspension. Okay, big breakover. It's on the skid. Forward weight bias is going to take over. As long as we get it far enough forward, it slides right through. Rear tires climb it. Beautiful work by the stance. Perfect. That was nice. So we're missing that finesse low speed on the drops, so that can make it a little tricky. Totally workable, just it's tricky. That was nice. That looked good. The stance looks good. I do like this blue. It's growing on me a lot, actually. I really do like this. Very nice. Always a really fun spot here. This is further down the trail on Sidewinder, just about to the end of it. Oh, our rear tire is in trouble already. This is not good. Push into it, straighten up to alleviate the bind on the suspension. That worked out. Then we're gonna drive down into this crack. I'm gonna transition from being on one side of the crack to balancing on the crack. Our front bumper's on the wall, that's not helping. This is kind of a buggy line for reasons you can now see. So let's try some angle on it. There it is. Need to keep that front tire low to help this tire turn through here. Little modulation on the throttle, but it's forward bias, so it's going to try and do that at some point. It's going to try and weight shift on you, weight transfer on you. There we go, we got our angle. Now we're going to have to throttle into it. We can also reverse back up to get balanced. Not the prettiest I've ever done that, but you know, it worked. And then this wall actually turns in here, and we're going to go out to the right. It gets real tricky, especially with sticky tires like this and a weaker servo. Fortunately, we've got a 5-inch tire to make it up some of these ledges though. I was being straight up mean to this thing right there. That was pretty good. That's full throttle reverse. So as far as the truck braking or hurting itself with the factory electronics, I don't anticipate having many issues. So once you add a bunch of torque with a brushless system, like I like to do, that you'll start running into issues. Wiggling some servo bits. Nice. Making progress. Progress blue. I guess we'll just transfer to left. Made is made. That'll work. So check out where this goes. End up out here on the edge. Oh look, we have people to tell you how freaking high up we are. That's neat. Give you a little perspective rather than just looking at rocks far away. Sick. Up and around, and then down a sketchy ass drop. I really don't want to lose my new stance. This is going to be hard with the brush system. Oh, perfect. Set it down just gentle enough. Beauty. And then try and land it centered. Haha. Well guys, to no surprise, the VRD stance is still awesome, especially with machined ring and pinions like they've changed them to, especially in a sweet new color for the body as well. Really high clearance body as well. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but we rarely touched that thing today. Just barely got into our bumpers a bit. Overall, very stoked on the new VRD stance. So, many thanks to Vanquish for sending a VRD stance out for me to make a video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you're debating on picking one up, the new version is excellent. It is certainly worth checking out, and I would recommend it. That's just me. If this video helped you out in your decision to pick one up, be sure to use my affiliate link down below if you're not shopping local. I always suggest to support your local hobby shop. That's definitely the way to go. My local hobby shop is Sky RC in St. George, Utah. Cody down there will get you taken care of if you're local to me or just passing through. Be sure to stop by and say what's up. But we'll see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.